Will just bought his first house. Will don't have no mortgage, man. That's nuts. Will don't have no mortgage. How's everybody doing today? Cool. So, you would think 48 hours before Dr. King's birthday, in a $350 million facility, screening Generation 1, that this place was packed. Not to mention that we flew George Frazier in, and it's free. I'm like, unbelievable. But it's cool though, because you know what this means? This means that you and George says this all the time, you guys are the people who will be in attendance today are the people who are going to do the work. What we came here this weekend to talk about, to discuss, is real work. It's not playtime. I mean, we showing these films. You know, we'll be showing films in February. We'll have Dr. Michael Roberts, and in March we have the Mooney twins, Paul Mooney's son, slated to come. In April, the Jewel Tanker's coming. And in May, we got Dr. Claude Anderson. We got a whole bunch of programming scheduled for the entire year, right here at this facility. So we're not just going to, you know, we don't believe that Black History Month is just the month of February. We should be learning our history all the time. But one of the reasons why we're here, and George says this all the time, is that this work has to continue. And everybody's not going to do this type of work. This is the real work. You know, King was killed not because of this ideology that he had about having a drink. That's not a threat, right? They put a bullet in his head because he started changing his narrative about economics, and more specifically, Black economics. So this is a matter of high importance. I'm happy that you guys are here, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it. This is not just an event that we're putting on. You know, we don't want anything from you. We asked just a few questions to kind of get a gauge on where folks are at. I think we asked like three important questions. Do you have a retirement? Are you interested in real estate investment? And do you have life insurance? Those are three key questions. And they weren't posed to kind of make you feel, you know, some kind of way like, oh, I'm not having my stuff together. It was a question so that we can create dialogue if we don't. Okay? There's too many of us that are passing away that are using this thing, this GoFundMe, to be able to, like, that's our burial insurance. Forget what A.G. Gaston was talking about, right? Like, at least put like $20 aside in case you expire, which we're all going to at some point. But this concept of using a GoFundMe, or this concept that we have of when we expire to allow somebody else to not have to deal with that concept has to be challenged. And the only way that I know, there's probably a whole bunch of other ways, but one of the only ways that I know to challenge these concepts are in these kinds of forums, where we can get into, you know, what is allowing us to think so lowly of ourselves that we don't want to leave an inheritance for the next generation. Like, something's wrong with that concept. You know, even when we think about, I did a film screening, because as you know, Generation 1 was the first film that I was a part of. So I'm an entrepreneur, real estate investor. I got about 3 streams of income: real estate, media, we'll call it, just say radio in the past, but now that it's film, we go to media, and my speaking career. And so, with that being the case, when we're talking about our counterparts in outside of our community in New York Life called, we did a film screening in New York, and they called us and they sponsored the event. And they told me before we screened Generation 1, I'll never forget this, they said, you know, there's something in New York Life that they call the Jewish protocol. I was like, man, what are you talking about? They say that the oldest person in the community, this is the Jewish community, the oldest person, the family members pay the premium on. Now think about this. When you're up in age, your premiums are extensive. I think at 80 you can't even get any more life insurance, something like that. So when you're getting up in age like that, 72, 73, 74, 75, it becomes very difficult to get carriers to insure. And if they do insure, it's expensive. So our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community, they pull the resources to pay the premium on it. And they overinsure that individual. So think about that. Think about if our grandparents, we put 10, 20 million on grandma. And everybody pulled the resources to pay premiums on that. Right? See, what we do is, when we expire, we want to leave a house. This is what we've been told. Right? When we expire, we don't have a mortgage. We don't have, well, grandma might have stayed in the house for 30, 40 years, so she pays it off. And it's debt-free, right? But we don't put the tools and the mechanisms in place to direct how this asset is going to be handled when you expire. So what happens is it gets probated automatically in Georgia if you have assets and you don't have a living will to organize where your assets go. The man has to make that determination. Your stuff go to court, and of course, they rule. And this is the standard on how Georgia rules. The standard is they have a hearing, right? They run an ad in the legal newspaper for 4 weeks, and whoever responds or has an issue, they come to court, right? So if it's 10 of y'all that come to court and y'all got an issue, the judge says we're going to give 1/10. Everybody gets an interest of 1 and 1/10 of this house that might be worth $100,000. Then when you go to sell it, you got attorney's fees, you got eviction fees, you got all these other fees involved. Everybody walks away with $6 grand. That's black economics in Atlanta right now. And I think you can say that that's worldwide, or at least in the United States, right? No protocols in place when we expire. So I say all of that to say that when we ask that one question, do you have life insurance? That's a vehicle for wealth building. I'm not saying no to real estate. We're going to get into that in a minute. But I just want y'all to understand the importance of having life insurance. As I'm getting older, I never knew the importance of it until George started slowing me down. I was like, hey, what are you doing with your money? Did you get some life insurance? And he talks about his life insurance. He talks about, we get to that. But now, 40 years old, I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. We need to have more than one protocol as it relates to life insurance. So that's that. The second question that we ask is retirement. This is very important for some of y'all that might know, might not know. So the 401k is technically a joke. And let me explain why. Because sometimes we make these brash statements and people say, well, Dr. Anderson, expound on that. Why is that a joke? So if we take our standard 401k, somebody who's on a gig, on a job, they're putting their time in, they might be putting, let's say hypothetically, they're putting $1,000 in per month on a 401k. And then the employer is matching that another $1,000, right? So now you got $2,000 a month going towards your quote retirement, and every year that's $24,000. So here's the game. If you stay on the job for 10 years, guess what? You just accumulated $240,000, $260,000, right? In 10 years, give or take. Last time I ran an illustration, and you can run illustrations tonight if you haven't. Google says for me to not work, and Kiyosaki defines work as the amount of money that you can earn without having to exert energy. That's what retirement actually is, right? Not having to work, just checks coming in. In order to achieve that, Google says with my lifestyle right now, and I don't have a whole lot of debt, I don't have a mortgage, I don't have car notes, I don't have none of that traditional student loans, I don't have any of that stuff. I've got a pretty low debt load, minus some business debts that I'm carrying. But for me to live without having to speak, work, radio, TV, film, whatever, I got to bring in 10 G's a month minimum, 10 grand. So that means that I got to have 1.5 million as Smith Barney, right, at 4 or 5% in order for me to get out the game. You just got to be sitting there. Okay, that's me. I don't know where everybody else is, but if we're all not in that position, we got to hustle. Okay, so what I'm getting at is, if I need 1.5, some people in here might need 3. If you're married, you might need 5. All right, so that's pretty low. But if you're on the job and you're paying into the 401k, they got you. Because you're not thinking about that. You're not thinking about, 10 years from now, what's going to be my mental capacity to actually work? What's going to be my health capacity? What's going to be the taxes? What's going to be the insurance? How is hyperinflation going to affect my 401k? Nobody's talking about these things. Nobody's talking about the debt load right now. If you go to the U.S. debt clock, very important. Everybody should go to usdebtclock.org and check out our debt. Our debt right now is 22 trillion. And that's taking into consideration that principles of accounting is followed by the government, which is not. Standard accounting principles the government doesn't follow. They don't have to put their assets on their balance, their debts on their balance sheets, which in fact means that debt load is incorrect. It's more like 80 trillion than it is 22 trillion, right? And then when you divide that number by the 320 million Americans in America, that means everybody owes $65,000 to the Fed. But only 1/3 of Americans pay actual taxes. So that third of Americans that's paying taxes, the debt load is 165,000. In addition to student loans, house notes, car notes, and basic debt on credit cards, which is about 55,000. House notes is about 150,000. Student loan debt's about another 150,000. Man, we had $500,000. Everybody's negative 500,000. And ain't nobody talking about how to fix this. Nobody. No school, Georgia State School of Business, the B School at Harvard, New York Institute. Nobody's teaching how to address that issue. That's nuts. It's unfathomable to me. So when we walk in here and we have these events, and we're talking, hey, Will don't have no mortgage. He just bought this house for $17,500 at the courthouse steps. And instead of bringing it to market and selling it, he's deciding, making a cognizant choice to move in it. My mind is blown. So that he can reduce his debt, have the opportunity to reduce debt for the next 10 years. That's crazy. We all got to do that. It's not enough for me to do it, or Q to work towards it, or William to do it. We all have to make these types of decisions right now and move like this if we're really serious about the work. Because throwing your fist in the air and saying, yo, injustice, racial injustice, economic injustice, black power, all of that don't mean nothing. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm not trying to offend, RBGs and everybody that's, down for the conscious community. I'm the most conscious brother you ever meet. But if we can't, as George says, write a check, we can't finance our own empowerment, we can't finance our own revolution, what are we doing? So these matters of retirement, these matters of life insurance, these matters of real estate are intricately intertwined in our ability to build wealth, period. I mean, there's some other vehicles out there. I know people are running around doing the Forex, and I know the Bitcoin is hot. I'm a big proponent of the Ripple currency. I like that right now. It's kind of hot, But even in that, there's a story that came out that I posted today. Huffington Post talks about these guys because they're not regulated, are utilizing the MSNBC to talk about these cryptocurrencies. They get out here on the market, they get hot, and then it tanks. So the market's being manipulated by people who are controlling the game, And so what I'm getting to is we got to get into the basics. It's back to basics. This weekend is about going back to basics. Cryptos are hot. We don't know how long it's going to be here, right? That's it. Tom Brokaw wrote a book called When the Lights Go Out, talking about the EMP. Very imperative book if you haven't read it. This talks about the Chinese pulled a U-boat or a submarine and popped up in the Hudson River in New York and hung out. It's on YouTube. You check this out. Hung out for about 2 hours. Chinese sub. And then it was out. And nobody said nothing about it. Nobody talked about it. None of this. And this happened in New York about 7 years ago, right when they had that. The lights went out. I don't know if y'all remember. The whole Northeast corridor went out for like 7 or 8 days. And they said it was some white boy in Ohio sent an email and shut the grid down. If you do your research, it was an EMP that the Chinese let off to let us know, yo, we here, what's up? We see you. This is how they move. You know what I'm saying? And the wires that go, the internet runs under the water on these cables, these fiber optic cables. They run underground all the way to Europe, right? And the boat was was just hovering right over there and dropped the EMP. It was a wrap. No internet, no lights. So what I'm getting at is, if we saying, oh, cryptos is hot, there's other presentations going on right now as I speak about cryptos that people are at, and they're all excited about it. You know, they're like, oh, this is a lot of money's being made. They're like going nuts. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Negroes don't even have, you know, what we need as it relates to life insurance. And we want to have a conversation about Bitcoins? Like, no, hold on. We got to get our priorities in order. I'm not saying no to Bitcoins, but what I'm saying is we got to do the basics. We got to have some land, we got to have some insurance, and we got to be about some business. You know what I'm saying? Some retirement so we can have a business. Those are 3 things I want to focus on today. So with that being the case, are we set up over there? All right. This is another important fact. I watch a lot of TED Talks. I try not to watch a whole lot of TV. There's a few shows a few ratchet shows that I just try to check out so I can stay on top of what's going on. Current events. Yeah, current events. 30 minutes of ratchetness a week. Yeah, this is for the social awareness, my brother. But I watch a lot of TED Talks, man, and all the TED Talks are basically imperatively the same. You know, they give you about 15 minutes to speak, and you solve problems, right? And so some of the biggest challenges that folks are trying to solve that come across the board, the top 5 challenges that affect humanity, forget black folks, we're just talking about humanity worldwide. The number 1 is energy. It's number 1. Number 1 challenge is energy. Now peep this game. Around the corner off of Decatur Street is a laboratory. Lonnie Johnson's laboratory is right on the corner. When you go down past the MARC station, it's right there. Lonnie Johnson, if you don't know, is a black man. He's an inventor. You guys might know he invented the super soaker, right? But that's like one of the last things that he's most noted for. Because Lonnie Johnson, in inventing the super soaker, he only brought that to market to get money to work on his life's work, which are batteries, all right? And so Lonnie Johnson, a black man, just invented a super battery. And Elon Musk at Tesla uses this battery to power his cars, okay? So a black man has invented the technology to power these electric cars. And the new battery that they just put out, this joker goes 1,000 miles on one charge. When the battery first went out, it only went like 135 miles, and white men were buying these little cars, Roadsters. He was like, all right, it goes 135 miles, I gotta charge it up. Lonnie put his thing on there and was like, yo, use this. It go 1,000 miles on one charge. And they got trucks that they have raced against diesel with full loads on 5% grades going uphill. And this electric truck smashes them every time. The cars, if you watch, that are racing right now on YouTube, the ones that are winning are stock electric cars that are stock, coming straight from the manufacturer, blowing people out. They're using nitrous, blowing them out the water in under 60 seconds. So what am I saying? I'm saying I can't understand how a black man right down the street has invented technology specifically for us to use. We know nothing about this. Nothing at all. We're not even using it. We're not trying to figure out how we can get a power wall in our house. We're not trying to figure out how we can get these new solar glass tiles on our roofs. We're not trying to insulate ourselves as it relates to infrastructure. And the number 1 talk on TED Talk right now is energy worldwide. In the future, right now and in the future, energy. The number 2 talk is water. The right to water. And if you know anything about Nestle right now, Nestle is buying up the rights to all of the water in California, which is part of the reason why California is having all these fires. Because Nestle Corporation is draining all of the reservoirs. T-Boone Pickens buys all of the water rights for the Great Lakes of Detroit. He went and had a conversation with God. Who signed off on that contract? God let him buy the Great Lakes, the rights to the water rights to the Great Lakes. Like, so number 1, energy. Number 2, water, right? Mm-hmm. Number 3, food security. It's an issue. Last time I checked, if you own land, you could grow your own food. But now they're telling us that food is an issue, food security is an issue. That's addressed with land, right? So if we just deal with the top 3 issues that's affecting people all over the world, we have to then take a serious look at real estate. Why? Because if I own land, I can put solar panels on my land. I can generate energy, right? If I own land, I can carve out another percentage and grow a crop. Georgia is still the #1 state in cotton for the world. Agriculture, right? So you could grow, soon they're saying, I don't promote it, but they're saying you can grow marijuana. But I don't know how that's going to work for black folks, because every time we try to go and make some money, we still wind up going to jail. You go to jail for selling it, and you say, okay, I'll go get a license to sell it, and then you still go to jail. It's crazy. So, I mean, I would probably wind up leasing land to some growers, 50,000 an acre. That might be in my protocol later on, if Georgia becomes a growth state. But what I'm getting to is that land addresses the issue of energy, land addresses the issue of food, growing crops, and land also addresses the issue of being able to provide housing and or shelter. Those are the 3 main issues that are affecting humanity worldwide. Forget what's affecting black folks. This is what's affecting people worldwide. So that brings me to my conversation, which is what I want to have today. It's a conversation about land ownership and real estate. Georgia's going to talk to y'all about, the importance of life insurance instruments and how that can be used to grow wealth. But I wanted to kind of take a minute and talk to y'all about why the land is so important. So, one of the aspects of my career as an entrepreneur, I've been involved in a couple of other business opportunities. I'm the co-founder of the Empowerment Radio Network. We have syndicated Warren Ballantyne, Bev Smith, Rashad Ritchie, Roland Martin, a number of other major black thought leaders in the radio space. And we're making some changes to the network. We should be relaunching the network on my birthday, February this year, with a more concise focus of just financial empowerment 24 hours, 7 days a week. Previously, we were more doing social, political issues, and nobody wants to hear about Trump all day. So we're going to just kind of focus on the financial empowerment conversation. But what has allowed me to do these great things, like help to finance movies, I was a part of Black Friday, part 1, part 2. I'm in the middle of, some of y'all might know, I'm in the middle of a finance of a film that we're shooting in Egypt. And George will talk to you more about what's going on in Egypt. We're shooting this film called Return to Kemet, which kind of follows Dr. Anthony Browder on his history and as an archaeologist, as a black famed archaeologist, his find in the Valley of Kings with Karak-Amun, 25th dynasty, ancient Egypt, Smager. So just be on the lookout for that. But what I'm getting to is how I'm able to do all these amazing things. It's not because I'm an amazing entrepreneur. It's because I've been focused on real estate for the past 10 years, period. You go do some deals, you put some funds together, you sell some real estate, you can produce films, you can build a radio network, you can do all this stuff, right? You can buy a boat. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because right now in Atlanta, the major issue that's affecting Atlanta right now is gentrification. It's happening right now as I speak. Right now. Like right now. So yesterday, before we got to, I always come to the venue that I speak at the day before, and I walk. I just kind of walk around the area, get a vibe for what's going on. And so on my walk, not too far from here, it's Boulevard. Boulevard area called Bedford Pines. It's traditionally like public housing. And on my walk over here, there was a gate. The gate was up. And this gate was up for like the whole block. It was a block from, before I got to Angier, from like Wabash to Angier. It was a long block. And this whole fence was up. It was up over my head. Now, every day that I walk by here, there's kids outside, there might be a guy with a white t-shirt on with some goals in his mouth on the phone. You know what I'm talking about, right? There's parents outside looking for the bus. Might be an old guy out there drinking, just watching people walk by. All of that was over with. All those people were gone, all right? And so I was like, oh, this is crazy. This is like everything that I'm talking about. Like I normally like hop out, go live, do a video, you know, get on YouTube and try to bring some awareness to this. But on this particular day, I went home that night and I looked it up. So I went on the Fulton Assessor's website and I looked up who the owners of these properties were. And they're all owned by a Jewish individual, not even a corporation, an individual. And for whatever reason, they decided to sell. And so now, all of those people, which had to be somewhere between 500 to 1,000 people, families and stuff, they got to get out, which is what the gate is up. Now, they might have knew about this, but I didn't know nothing about it, and I'm in the area. My business is in the area, I live in the area, I'm in the area, and I didn't even know about it. And so that same tenement or housing complex, public housing complex, they're gonna blow up and they're gonna rebuild and they're gonna sell townhomes starting at $1 million. And if you don't believe me, when you pull out of here, make a right or left on any one of these blocks. Chamberlain, Fitzgerald, all of this stuff, $1 million property. Same exact property, right?